Jeff Smith here from attractinggreatness.com. That's attractgreatness.com. Today we're going to talk about living an inspired life. Now, this is really to address all of those situations where we feel stuck. We feel like maybe we're not living up to our true potential in terms of our productivity or our happiness in life. So when we feel like we're procrastinating about something, when we feel like we're not really inspired, we're not living on purpose, we're stuck in a rut. We think of ourselves as maybe being lazy or just not worthy of things. We're not on our game. And really, we all get into these situations at different times, and some people get into it a little bit deeper and a little bit longer, but really, this isn't singling out any one person. We can all be inspired. We can all live to be more inspired. And this is really out of the last sort of 15 years of helping people build their own lives, build their own sets of goals, become more productive, really achieve a lot more of what they really wanted to achieve in the first place. We've found that there is this 3-step process for where you can actually replace procrastination, your laziness, those feelings of laziness, with inspiration and greatness. And so I want to run through those, but let me just start by asking a few questions, because I think this is, all of us get into this sort of feeling of a rut. Do you struggle with, and right now ask yourself these questions rather honestly, dreaming but not taking action? So dreaming about things still is great, but at some point we got to take action, and we start to feel worse the longer we dream and don't take that action. Are we constantly putting things off? And especially, are we doing everything but what is most important? So not only are we putting things off, but we're putting the most important things off. And that could be, your objectives could be becoming a better parent, but we just can't seem to focus on those things that we know will make us a better parent. Or we want to lose that last stubborn 10 pounds, or we want to start our own business, but we can't seem to really put our emphasis on the critical things to make that come about. Are you full of excuses for not getting things done? We all go through this process, but you really got to watch out if it becomes a pattern that every day we've got excuses for, I don't feel great today, or I'll do it tomorrow, or I've got something has come up, or I can't lose weight when I'm going out for dinner, or it's the holiday season, or all of those excuses. Low self-confidence and low self-motivation. Okay, do you feel like you just don't have the confidence to carry through on what you want to carry through on, right? Maybe it's got a social aspect, and you just don't seem to have the confidence to carry it through. Or you don't have the belief in yourself that you'll be able to make it. Okay, we all get into those situations. And really, at the worst case, we might have lost hope for becoming what we truly know we're capable of. This is one of the most brutal things, is when you know inside that you're capable of doing these things, but the world hasn't seen the real you yet. Isn't that one of the most frustrating things? That you're capable of being a much different person. You know that internally, but the people outside the world haven't seen that yet. So ask these questions now. What if motivation was more automatic? What if you didn't have to motivate yourself and motivation wasn't temporary? What if it just came to you in an automatic fashion? What if procrastination, disappeared? It was a thing of the past. You didn't have to worry about it anymore. You didn't have to fight. It takes so much of our energy trying to just fight procrastination all the time that we have no energy left to do what we really want to do, isn't it? Okay, so you stop beating yourself up. Constantly, when we get into these ruts, when we get stuck, and we get into these areas of procrastination, there's a battle going inside our heads all day long. We're constantly beating ourselves up, right, for what we're not achieving. And that saps your energy, and it's full of negativity. And how are we going to ever achieve anything if we're constantly beating ourselves up? And what if we could attract others who take action? A lot of people complain about who they're surrounded by, and the people around them are bringing them down. But folks, we have to realize that a lot of what we're projecting, a lot of the, we're actually attracting the types of people that are around us right now. So if we have negative people, if we have doubters, if we have, other people that aren't motivated and are procrastinators, that's a reflection of what we're feeling about ourselves. So what if we could change that? And what if all of a sudden it became easy to attract others who take action? And what if finally people could see the real you? Isn't that really what we want? We want to live out the potential, and we want people to see the real us. And what if our self-confidence soared? What if all of those situations where we feel we can't be the real us today, we really could? And people saw that confidence and it became infectious. Well, you really can change. And we've seen many, many people in all different states change, and we have applied this in our own life, in our own business, and I have to tell you, the impact is astounding. So we talked about the 3 steps of replacing procrastination and laziness with greatness. Step number 1, we need to focus, and we're going to go through these in a little bit more detail, but we have to have an important big outcome that we're aiming for. If we don't have that, what's the purpose? What's the sense? What is there to make us feel like there's something to work towards or achieve? And we'll find that when we have that bullseye or that important outcome in place, we'll be drawn to that automatically, and it will become less of an effort. And number 2, we need to build a step-by-step set of actions and processes to get us to that end outcome. It's too overwhelming to go from A to Z. Instead, we need to go from A to B to C, right? So we need to build those bridges. And third, we need to have a movie, a vision of success and failure in our house that in our minds of success and failure, what happens in the outcome, in order to motivate us on an ongoing basis. So let's talk about important outcome first of all. It needs to be big. Okay, what you're trying to achieve, you need to have a big vision in your life of what you want to achieve. And second, it needs to be highly emotional. It can't be something that you say you want to do, or that it's someone else has achieved it, so you want to achieve it. It has to be highly emotional to you. If you want to lose weight, that has to be a very emotional goal for you. And instead of setting it at 10 pounds, maybe you set it at 15 pounds, and you set it around how you would look when you lost that weight, and it becomes very emotional to you. It needs to. Something that you really want, something that is exceptionally important to you and is your own. It's not external. It's not someone else's dream. It's got to be your own dream. Okay, so if you're procrastinating, if you find yourself lazy or you're stuck in a rut, you've got to go back and look at what is it you're trying to achieve. What's that big emotional thing that you really want? It's exceptionally important to you, and it's yours. You want to achieve it. Okay, so you need to work towards that. And then once we have that big thing that we want to achieve, we have to know also that our mind needs that broken down into a series of steps. Okay, so I already talked about this, instead of going from A to Z, we need to go from A to B to C to D, right? We need a stepping stone approach. And the reason is, on a day in, day out basis, when we focus on an action trying to get to Z, we can't, we might only get 15, 20 minutes. There may be things that come up in our day. We need a simple plan, a simple bridge to get from A to B, so that on day 1, that's what we accomplish. And then on day 2, we go from B to C. And maybe some days you go from C to F. Fine. Right? But we need it broken down into those steps. Otherwise, we get overwhelmed and we get right back to where we started from. Okay? We need a series of steps constructed in reverse. That means you start with Z and then you go back, right? And you create those steps. What do I need to do to get to Z? So if my goal is to lose 15 pounds, one of those things is each day I need to walk for 20 minutes, right? And so we set that goal. And that's one step. That's one A to B step. We need to maybe cut out a certain amount of sugars in our diet. So we replace juice with water. And that's step 2, right? And so you come up with all of these steps, and then you actually bring that down to a day-by-day plan, and they're very achievable things. As I mentioned, you bring these down into these bridges, or 10 to 15-minute mini accomplishments, right, that lead towards the end goal. And the time actions to get you going. This means time yourself. Take that 10 to 15 minutes and make sure you're working on it. Let's say you're writing a book. You break it down into chapters, and then you break it down into maybe 10 or 15-minute chunks, and you time yourself for that 10 or 15 minutes to make sure you focus on that goal for 10 or 15 minutes. And just do it. You've got to take the first step. Once you take that first step and you start consistency each day, each small win leads to a big win. You become motivated. You start to see that, hey, I went from A to B, I went from B to C, now I can go from C to D. This is easy, right? And you can actually reach that end goal. So after you build those bridges, you need also day to day to get motivated for taking action and walking over those bridges. And that's a vision of success and failure. What's that mean? Well, you need to create a scene of your life after achieving your goal. So imagine that you already have lost your 15 pounds, or you already are the perfect parent, or you have started your business, all of these things, or you've written your book, and you need to create what would your life be like. Include the sights, sounds, feelings, friends, family, yourself. Build a movie. What is the end clip in that movie when you've achieved the goal that you're seeking out to achieve? What would your life be like? Who would your friends be? What feelings would you have? This is your chance to write the ending of your movie. Go Hollywood. You understand how, take the sappiest movie. Think of It's a Wonderful Life and how that ends up. Well, write that end clip for yourself, right? You want that wonderful ending, that Hollywood ending, and that should be your scene that motivates you day in and day out. Create the scene of your life. Also, if you do not achieve your goal, so you also want to create a sad ending, right? And why? Well, because you need to feel emotional pain and pleasure. The pleasure part of it is the scene of how you succeed. The pain part of it is the scene of how you do not succeed. You've got to create a pain threshold of not achieving your goals. That's massively important. Okay? Be clear in the pain involved. It has to be equally vivid and even more emotional than the pleasure part, because you've got to understand that there are consequences if you do not achieve your end goal, and those have to be emotionally felt in your system. And that's what's going to drive you. That's what's going to make motivation automatic in your life. And procrastination will be a thing of the past. I guarantee you. If you've got something big and you've created these scenes and you review them every day, our last point here, review your scenes once in the morning and once at night of your positive Hollywood ending and your negative Hollywood ending, just for 5 or 10 minutes, it becomes ingrained and emotional in you, and automatically your body will work towards achieving these end goals. You're training your mind to really obsess over taking action toward your desired result. It's too painful not to. This really works, folks, so I urge you to take this up. Okay? So, we've gone from, those are the 3 steps. We've gone from inaction to greatness. Okay, we've programmed our mind in this process, and I understand this is only a 10-minute odd teaching, and so for all these other points, there are really 5 pillars of greatness that we need to become truly great in our life. We've talked about one of them today, which is training our mind to go from procrastination, inaction, to becoming on fire, becoming passionate again, and getting over the laziness and being stuck in a rut. But really, as I mentioned, there's these 5 pillars go from inaction to greatness, and you'll find that inside Beyond Greatness over at attractgreatness.com. I really want you to take a look at that site. You're going to find more information over there, and you'll really see over there is a program that we've written that we've tested on literally thousands of people over the last 5 to 6 years that have made immense changes in people's lives, and these were based on also you'll find in the first chapter of that course how this actually transitioned our own lives from something where we were really not just stuck in a rut, but our health was suffering in an incredibly bad spot back in our early 20s, and how I was able to move beyond that into achieving all of our goals that we set at that point in time. Going from inaction to greatness. Check it out over at attractgreatness.com. If you're at any point in your life right now, or you think you're heading into a point where you could be more productive, you could be more on fire, more passionate, a higher achiever, leave procrastination behind, leave laziness, and get unstuck in your life, then check this out at attractgreatness.com. I hope this was useful for you today. I want you to leave any questions and or comments you have against this in the blog post. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on this and how this is working for you. But do please put this into action. Regardless of whether you go over to attractgreatness.com, review this video again, come up with your own game plan based on this process, and let us know how it's working out for you. Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye for now.